Hopefully it won't go out on us. Yep, all right. All right, so we're just gonna, for you specifically, still waiting on Miss Grace to get back to field the science team, okay? So I'll reach out and see if I can get an exact date, but I know she is still excited about coming in. She actually reached out to a lot of our Filipino teachers to kind of get herself acclimated to the area, so she's really close. Hopefully we'll have her at least by spring semester. I would like for it to really be, at this point in time, if I don't get her within a week or two, I would definitely have her come in whenever she comes in, but I'd have somebody have Miss Sears stay in there and then have a clean start for her second semester. I think that might be the best way of going about it. But I did want to specifically kind of go over and look at your EVOS data, okay? One of the things I wanted to start out by looking at is our performance last year. We exceeded growth in biology, so very good job between you and Ms. Hall. Outstanding work, okay? But I'll dive directly into your stuff, and we'll kind of go from there. All right. Oops, sorry. Knowledge here. Have you been able to look at any of your EVOS stuff?
Yeah, I think.
Okay.
Not recent, but I think last week or so.
Gotcha. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and click here, and we'll go through this. Okay. So we've seen an improvement. Okay. If you look from year 1 to year 2 and year 3, there is an improvement.
I always see year 1.
Hey, but it's okay. You got a baseline, right? And we know where we're not going back to, right? All right. Now another thing I looked at, like this one right here, is kind of a tale of two different years. You would look at this and possibly think, oh, it's a slight step back between 2.01 and 1.77. But we know. Look at the students that you had last year, 2 years ago as opposed to last year. You had a less amount, all right, smaller class size in 23 than 24. You had the full gamut of students here in 2024. So this is more of an accurate description. But this also tells us where you can be, right? All right, very close to exceeding growth, and you did exceed growth in 23. And you look at it right here, you're 0.23 points away from exceeding growth again. Okay, so you're right there. You're making a positive impact on all the students, so that's great. Okay, what we will do is we'll eventually try to dive into each individual student's work, but it's encouraging to see the growth. Okay, it's encouraging to see the growth. The growth is a positive thing. Let's see here. Next step I wanted to look at, all right, is where we're going about, okay? All right, out of your 37 students total that you taught, okay, 35 of them were able to calculate their score and put them in an achievement group. One of the things that we're looking at is we would like to see more in our highest group, okay? One of the things we talked about yesterday in our admin meeting when we're going over EVOS data is making sure we are teaching to this group and differentiate for the other groups, okay? Again, you see the progress. All of your students in 23 fell within this group, okay? All right, but you see how in 24, you have the lowest group and then you have a medium group, okay? So you see the progression. Yeah, come on. You see the improvement and the progression, right? So we're just keeping up that work. Keeping up that work.
It's okay, Mr. Bennett.
Oh, try to figure out what that same word is. Huh? We got a little issue going on here. But actually, I'm glad you guys came in. So, if you don't mind, we'll talk through. Okay. So we're talking through growth measures. Okay. And one of the things we were looking at with Mr. Nketiah, right? in biology is his performance over the last 3 years. Okay, started here, has moved here and here. Okay, all right, and please forgive me if this is kind of redundant if you've already been explaining this. All right, growth measures how well you progress the student past their grade level, right? 0 would mean that they went from in Mr. Ketchia's case from 9th grade to 10th grade and they developed on par. Okay, if you look at the performance in 23 and 24, he exceeded the growth. Okay, in 23 and almost exceeded growth in 24. Okay, and what they do is they measure how students do, all right, and they have a growth index from -2 to +2. And -2 to +2 meets growth. So they expect students to go anywhere from -2 to +2. If they go over 2, we exceeded growth, which is a very good thing, which means that, you went above and beyond what any normal teacher in North Carolina would have done for that particular student. Okay, that's how it's measured. Now we all know the work that we do, goes above and beyond. We all try to go above and beyond, right? But in this case, looking at their performance, looking at how they performed in years past on the ELC, and then this year, and they're comparing also how other students with similar makeups, backgrounds, and performances perform. Okay, so we can see
Here's
over the
what I
last
found.
2 years. We can see over the last 2 years, he's done it fairly well. Okay, all right. If you gave just the basic instruction, right, and the kid progressed just normal natural progression, it would stay at a 0. Okay, so you want to be in the green or necessarily really in the blue. Okay, all right. But this is a good representation here, and then it's broken down in the numbers. Okay, all right. If you look at it like this, which I know this is wonky, this trips me up all the time. Enter achievement. This is the achievement that they came into the classroom with. And exiting the achievement is the achievement that they exited the class with. And you get the number of students. Okay? So if you see here, his kids last year came in the 22nd percentile, ended up in the 25th percentile. An increase is an increase. So we applaud that. Okay? Now, let's take an opportunity while we're here and look at math. All right. Here we go. Let's see. Okay, they're adding the middle school stuff in there. There we go. Perfect. All right. So now for English 2 met, English 1 met, English 3 met. Now with that, understand this, that there's several factors that goes into this growth matrix, all right? And it doesn't also equate the amount of catch up that you have to do, all right? So think about that as well. Let's go to each individual teacher. We look at in Catchill, let's see. Area. There we go. All right. And see from Ms. Moria, first year here, your baseline is right in there. Okay?
That's great.
Yeah.
I was correct.
So now you have a baseline, you have an understanding. All right. They got what they needed. Okay? All right. And in some of these cases, this information was just kind of like presented to us, so I'll make sure it's accurate there. All right, and in kind of similar fashion, you have kids in the lowest level, right, and in the middle level. You want to get some more kids performing in the highest level, all right, and a lot of our instruction goes through the highest level, and we differentiate for the low levels. Okay, so that's the way we want to look at it. We want to keep our rigor high. Because if our rigor is low, they can never get to the 4s and 5s. Okay, all right. And then we also got to look at the amount of kids who didn't meeting our analysts, and I don't know exactly why all of these students didn't. I can say for Ricardo and Carla, a lot of it was because ESL students and the first year testing. Yes, yeah, Hillary as well. So Hillary, Carla, and Ricardo. Now, and Rose. Now I'm thinking Tashee Hill and Bailey, they didn't test, so that's why they're not up there. Micaiah, I have to research why it wasn't included, but that kind of gives you a kind of rundown of that, okay?
I think Nevaeh is transferred.
Yeah, so Nevaeh transferred from another district that probably wasn't using, like, from another state.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Was it Virginia, I think it was? I can't remember. But anyway, that's why
She's
her
transferring.
her
And then
numbers
for
are low.
Eduardo and Carla, they are
10th grader, I think. Their status is 10th grade, but they took real math one.
Yeah, and for them, like I said, that being first year ESL, their scores,
first one.
yeah, because they don't have anything to go by. Baez, I believe the same thing. She did
Yeah, she's
transfer from
transferring.
another state. Yep. All right, so now let's look at next. Ms. Grinchu, did you have Michelle? Did you have
Yeah.
math one last year? Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. All right. So right there, still in the green. Okay. All right. Very close to zero. All right. Let's get a breakdown of our kids. All right. All right. So this is again where we want to work towards teaching to the high level and differentiating for the low, so we can get more in each category. Okay. All right.
Is it like a data for like the kids we have now that we can actually use?
There is data. Well, there should be. When I checked yesterday on this, I think it only had populated the teacher data. Okay. There were some predicted scores and stuff like that for some students, but not all. I'm gonna check with Ms. Struthers to make sure I'm looking at it correctly, because I just couldn't be in the wrong area. But yeah, when I looked at this yesterday, the student expected scores for this year weren't up.
Projections.
Yeah, they weren't up yet.
The projected.
Yes, so like you can actually see the group, that's the highest group, and then you can differentiate for the middle and the other group.
Miss Mo would be us already.
Also, Ms. Smallwood.
Yeah, we have it.
Numbers only homes in our end, but
In our
admins and
identities.
So you were right there, Miss Lucero. Okay.
That's what I'm getting, like I don't understand that.
And you gotta also think you're dealing with 2 years, because we don't test in math 2, right? So you're dealing with all of math 2 and math 3 in one semester. Okay. So you gotta think about stuff here for everybody. But again, want to make sure the rigor is high. We're teaching to the high level students and differentiating for the others. Okay. It's one of the things I was saying. So 2 more times for that. Is anybody else in math that had? Put Miss Teacher down. Take a look at Miss Teacher down. And again, our students that we have here, it's gonna be an uphill climb. A lot of low performers, but they will improve. They will improve. Okay, one of the things was about more your math one students. We didn't have any of them show proficiency from last year. Not saying that any in middle school didn't, but the ones that did all went to the Earl College. Okay, so all of the students that are currently enrolled in now did not show proficiency this year. Uphill climb, but we can make it work. Because the bottom line we got to think about any of these scenarios, whether they are come to us on grade level, 2 years behind, 3 years behind, if we can get them caught up faster than one grade level, we've done our job. So if a kid comes in and he's at a 3rd grade level, and by the end he's up to a 5th, well, he caught up faster than he got older. Okay? So that helps out. So we gotta think about each and every student. Let's grow each and every student. Because not every student is gonna meet proficiency. Every student can meet growth. Every student can meet growth. And one of the things, and I'm a competitive guy, so this is kind of how I say it from a competitive standpoint. Nobody's gonna give them more than I am in my classroom. And this is one of the ways that growth kind of measures that. It's just like, all right, am I an average teacher? I don't think I am. So I've got to work hard enough to where that kid shows that I'm not an average teacher. One of the ways of doing that is making sure that they increase more than just one grade level. Because the average teacher would increase them on one grade level. The average teacher would keep the expected growth at 0, and we want to be on this side. Okay, but we're not in it by ourselves. We work as a group. That's why we PLC. That's why we try to support each other. That's why we have after school tutoring. That's why we have smart lunch. There's a lot of things that we put in place. Okay. All right. Any questions about EBOS? The small overview. All right. And you said Ms. Smallwood did give you the individual expectation. All right. I don't know why I can't see it, but I'll keep working on that. All right. What I want us to do now is I want to talk a little bit about our session from Friday. Okay, I know everybody wasn't here, but on Friday we talked about exemplar examples of our work, right? And I just want to clarify and make sure everybody has an understanding, right? All right. What we were focusing on Friday was making sure that we are creating exemplar examples, okay, and that we're presenting those exemplar examples. So half of it was the creation part, and half of it was the presentation, okay? All right, what I would like for us to do on Thursday, because we kind of went over ELOS today, is to bring your example of exemplar exit ticket answers, all right? In math, we've been doing it all year long, so we're a little bit ahead of the other PLCs. We create our exemplars in PLC. I want us to bring it, let's discuss it, make sure we've got everything squared away, and then we'll compare it to the student work, okay? All right, and then what we'll transition from creating our exemplars to working on how we're presenting them to the students. That's gonna be our next phase for this PLC, okay? And making sure our presentation is good, all right? And along with that, and let me see if I can. Oh yeah, I already erased it. I will explain this part, okay? And it might be, I want to make sure there's clarity in this because the other PLCs had a few questions. Half of what we're creating is an exemplar example. So we're showing them what we expect them to tell us, what we expect them to know, okay? And we also need to give them the tools in order to complete the exemplar, okay? So, an example, and I'm just using a simple problem so we can get through it. Let's say if I've got 3x plus 7 equals, let's say 19, okay? The exemplar example would be us showing all the steps needed exemplar example. Now, sure, it's a simple problem, but we're showing each detail step by step how this solved. You know, and if it was like explain, we'll be explaining, right? All right, we'd be showing how we're working, our thought process, all those things. All right, what an anchor chart would do for us is just, these are the tools that we use in order to do this, right? For us, it's just like, all right, how do we know to subtract 7 on both sides? All right, what tells us to subtract 7 on both sides? What property is that? All right, so that would be like property, subtraction property of equality. And we would demonstrate that there, right? So when we're telling kids, hey, what's the first step of solving a 2-step equation? Subtraction property of equality. And then we show them that, right? Okay, all right. Right here, what is our property that we use here?
Division.
Division. All right, we just use division. Okay, so we would go through the process of showing them how to divide, right? Or how do we know we need to divide? What is the opposite of, what is 3x? 3 times x. The opposite of that kind of x. Okay, so that's where division is.
The inverse operation.
Inverse operation. Okay, all right. So, let me put in the inverse. So you kind of, does everybody kind of understand the difference there? Now, the reason why I wanted to explain this, I just want to make clarity from the discussions with the other PLCs. The anchor charts is what we use to guide our thinking, okay? Exemplar example is specific to a specific problem, specific issue, assignment that we got them doing, and we show them exactly what this would look like to solve it, okay? Everybody got to understand? So, you know, if we were in English class, this would be like, how do you annotate? And this would be an actual poem that's annotated. Make sense? Any questions? Okay.
So if the anchor chart is like a picture, you can just create like a word form of the picture for the anchor chart.
Yes. Anchor chart is kind of like, you think about something, if you had a no notes test, anchor chart would be all the notes that they would try to sneak underneath their hand or something like that. Okay. All right. Exemplar would be the test questions written out, answers, explained, and all that other stuff. Okay. Right? Make sense? Study guide, answer to the test. Difference point. Okay. What we want them to use the study guide to answer the questions on the test. Okay? Any questions from anybody? All right. We meet tomorrow for PLC. All right. So let's bring an exemplar of an exit ticket. All right. And we will compare it to student work and go from there. All right. Sound good?
Yes.
Thank you all. Thank you.